Hello everyone, I'm Krasia Tasio, and this is astrology for the month of December. What to expect from the month of December day by day. This would say that I will tell you as usual what is happening on the sky, what activities are most appropriate to be done, and which activities are to be avoided in the month of December. Before that, I will make just a brief overview to tell you which are the main celestial events, sidereally, according to the sidereal zodiac, which is actually astronomical, like what is happening on the sky, literally is corresponding to the sidereal zodiac. So we know that some days ago Jupiter entered his sign of Sagittarius, but what is further happening is that on the 29th of November he's disappearing. He will not be visible. He's disappearing in the rays of the sun. I have another video on this. You can look if you like. I'm explaining there in detail what this phase of Jupiter is meaning. But basically what is happening is that the whole December and January we will not be capable of seeing Jupiter on the sky. He will be invisible. So this would say that his abundance, what he means, what he corresponds to, what he stands for, all those things will not be felt. They will not be present in our lives with the powers that they would be felt if Jupiter was visible. It's like if, for example, Jupiter is transiting over our ascendants and we hope for his protection and support, could be that this part of his influences is a little bit weakened. Another very interesting thing is that already in the end of November, Mercury is visible, and Mercury, you know, it's a very good thing, Mercury, to be visible. But here we have one important detail. He's visible and he's conjoined with Mars, which would say even if he's very good for communication, even if he's very good for media work, even if he's very good for trade, for whatever Mercury means, even astrology, with Mars in conjunction in the sign of Sidereal Libra, we can also expect certain disturbances of his energies, because Mars is detriment in the sign of Libra, and with this he's also influencing Mercury. Mercury is also our mind, way of thinking, and all these activities can be influenced not in a very positive way. Another thing which is happening in the middle of December, a very, very important event, is that Saturn becomes invisible. Saturn is hiding in the rays of the sun. Now, Saturn is considered to be a malefic planet, but actually by the ancients, he was not considered to be that malefic because he was the one who would bring the wisdom. Like the ancients, the Babylonian astrologers would consider Mars more malefic than Saturn, because then Mars was the one who is unpredictable. One of his names actually was the unpredictable star. With Saturn, we know that Saturn is predictable. We know that according to his placement in the horoscope, according to his phase, according to the aspects he receives or makes, we can make analysis on how he works in people's horoscopes, what kind of lessons and karmic challenges he may give them. So Saturn is pretty much predictable, but is still considered malefic because of the lessons he always brings. He always teaches us something. He's the only planet in the solar system who we can clearly say is bringing us clearly wisdom. Through hardship, of course. We cannot get wisdom there is no shortcut or easy way. So what is actually happening that in the middle, exactly, I think it is 15th of December, Saturn becomes invisible. Who is Saturn representing? Power, powerful governments, rulers of the governments, old people. So he also is responsible for poverty if badly placed. So he is also about esoteric interest into the hidden secret ancient studies. So he has so many faces, and all of them depend on how he's placed in each one of our horoscopes. Now, how his disappearance will be seen on mundane level, whatever he means is disappearing together with him. Could be that some old people will die, could be that some kings will not be kings anymore, could be that just anything that he means could disappear together with him. Now, the big changes in the world are not going to happen right away. I expect that will happen in January 2020, when Saturn is entering his own sign, and also with the placements of other planets. This will be very, very, very world-changing year. But this is subject of another video or in another analysis. I'm just telling you that with this disappearance of Saturn, he can become a bit surprising. He is not, the ancients would consider him a little bit easier when invisible, but still this would depend on the personal charts of people, how exactly the Saturnine influences will be felt. And I will tell you that he's already having the influences of Pluto. They exchanged energies because 5 degrees distance between them is nothing. It is a conjunction, because this conjunction is even taking place in the same term. Saturn and Pluto are conjoined in the same terms, in the term ruled by Saturn. So they are in a way in a house of Saturn, because they exchange energy. So in a way, this conjunction, which everyone is a bit concerned about, is already taking place. And yes, because of the influences of Pluto, this disappearance of Saturn can become unpredictable, can lead to unpleasant world events, which will happen behind our backs and secretly. And because this is happening while Mercury and Mars are also making aspect, because Jupiter is going to be invisible, this can certainly influence a lot communication, media, speech, and not in a good way. Could be that even more and more measures are being taken against freedom of speech, or the speech of people will be endangered, and so on and so on. The commerce is going to be, and the trade and the markets will be slowed down and endangered by this disappearance and by the disappearance of Jupiter and the aspects of Pluto. I think I went too far, because now what is important is to talk day by day what to expect from the month of December. A very, very significant month with a lot of phases happening. As I told you, Jupiter disappears, Saturn disappears. So this is very, very important. And yes, we should expect, of course, in January, amazing events, but they are not going to form the year, because the lunar solar year is starting not in January, remember. So actually there will be very important, of course, but Saturn entering his own sign is something that is very, very important event that will be felt for the period of 2.5 years. But again, it's another story. So let's start now about the month of December. Before starting, just to tell you that one more time, in December, the sign of Sagittarius, together with the Saturnine influences, are being emphasized by the first lunar crescent, which is on the 28th of November, which is forming the actual beginning of the month. And this first lunar crescent is happening in the sign of Sagittarius, where you're having, at that very moment, Venus, Jupiter, who is disappearing at this very same moment. We're having Ketu, we're having Saturn and Pluto. Luckily, Venus is there to soften very much all that is about to happen. And also, luckily also, Jupiter on this particular day is still visible. So I see this as a kind of a good omen for the month, that the month is not going to be like under the very, very heavy influences of the disappearance of Saturn, but still certainly they will be felt. Now, Yes, the month is emphasized by the sign of Sagittarius, by Saturn there, by Pluto. So these energies will be felt all over the month in every country, by every culture on mundane level. So month of December, the sign of Sagittarius is being emphasized. And what is the Sagittarius? Philosophical studies. It's about knowledge with Saturn there. Pluto, it is also about justice. It is about leadership. It is about abundance. This is good, but Jupiter and will not be visible in the month of December. Saturn will not be visible as well from the half of December on. So let's look day by day. I'm looking already at 1st of December, which is actually the 4th lunar day, very, very important lunar day. During the 4th lunar day in ancient Babylon, the kings were crowned, considered very, very important. And on this particular day, the moon is detriment in the sign of Capricorn, but in a very esoteric, intuitive degrees. This would say that when the moon is detriment, even though she's waxing, the day is not appropriate for new beginnings. You can do some medical interventions, you can do studies, you can do spiritual work, you can travel, you can negotiate, but very carefully due to the aspect of Mars. And this will be valid for the 1st of December and also for the 2nd of December. During the 2nd of December, the moon is still in the sign of Capricorn, excuse me, but void of course. When moon is void of course, there is not much that we can do, because then the moon is not very productive, not very practical, not supporting our activities. Since she is carrier of all actions, she will not be doing this on the 2nd of December. So there is not so much we can do, but to maintain our status quo, to do spiritual work, to teach others. We may travel. Medical interventions, it's not very appropriate. And then on the 3rd of December, the moon is in the powerful degrees of formal health, very spiritual, very beautiful degrees of the spiritual guru. 3rd of December, wonderful for helping others, for doing empathic work, for doing intuition work. And remember, already during this time, Jupiter is not visible already on the sky. And also on this day we can travel, we can negotiate, some new beginnings may be appropriate, interventions, medical, also if they're not invasive. Okay, and now on the 4th of December, which is the 7th lunar day already, we're having the moon in very special, very sacred degrees, and together with Neptune in conjunction. And on this day, we can travel, we can negotiate, we can do certain medical interventions. Some new beginnings are also possible, but all, of course, to be done taking into consideration that Jupiter, the main planet who is responsible for abundance, for blessing, is not visible anymore. And then on the 5th of December, the moon is in degrees which are, again, very spiritual, in Pisces, in the 1st degree, powerful degrees, where we're having the point of the vernal equinox. These are powerful degrees and blessed by the gods, but receiving the square of Saturn and Pluto. Therefore, on this day, it's good to be a little bit cautious, also because the ruler of Pisces is invisible already. So surgical interventions I wouldn't advise, new beginnings not, medical interventions only if they're not invasive. You may travel, you may negotiate, but cautiously. I would avoid, like really cautiously and very well prepared. And then we're having the 6th of December. On the 6th of December, the moon is receiving still the influences of Saturn and Pluto, very spiritual. So for spiritual work, this is wonderful because the moon is in the Mercurian term. For study work, for sharing your knowledge with others, wonderful, but not appropriate for surgical interventions, not for new beginnings. You may travel, you may negotiate, but very carefully, better avoid. Now, on the 7th of December, on the 10th lunar day, again, moon void, of course. So whatever you do may not be very, very productive or resultful. Therefore, maintain the status quo, do your spiritual work because it's the sign of Pisces. Help others and you'll be rewarded by the spirit world, of course. But surgical interventions, not medical interventions, if not invasive, you may. To travel, you may, but cautiously. And now, yes, to do negotiations, rather not. Now, on the 8th of December, we're having the moon in conjunct Uranus, actually, but in very interesting and very active, so to say, degrees in the sign of Aries, but receiving the opposition affliction of Aries, of Mars, excuse me. So on the 8th of December and on the 9th of December, I would avoid traveling, negotiating new beginnings and surgical interventions. On these days, it's good to be on the safe side, not really to get involved into risky situations and just to do the routine. And you'll be on the safe side. And then on the 10th of December, the moon is already approaching slowly the full moon. And on the 8th of December, on the 10th of December, excuse me, the moon is in the Pleiades, the seven sisters, you know, or the Subitu demons from the Babylonian mythology. And these degrees are a bit tricky. I would, when this is, when the moon is in such degrees, it's unpredictable. The seven sisters on the sky for every culture, in every mythology, are unpredictable. Therefore, surgical interventions are not appropriate new beginnings. Also not, these degrees can be somehow, actually not somehow, literally good for your income, so maintain the status, maintain your financial activities, but really for new beginnings, not yet. Then the day after can be interesting for some new beginnings. And the 11th of December is a very special full moon day, very, very special full moon day, because the moon is in her exaltation place, of course, hidden place, in other words, 11th of December, and the moon is also a conjoined star of money. So those of you who like to do full moon rituals, this is wonderful, powerful ritual for money, or for it's a beautiful placement of the moon, very good for maintaining your financial prosperity, very good for just everything. It's a very good star from the belt of Orion, where the moon will be on the 11th of December, and it's the full moon day. Now the full moon works differently on everyone. Some people can feel a bit tense, too emotional. It works differently. For other people, it could be something very productive, very good, very useful. So see how it works for you, but keep in mind it's a very good full moon. So you can benefit for good and you can maintain your business for good on this particular day. And from this moment on, the moon is already waning, and she is on the 12th of December in the sign of Gemini, and receive the aspects of Saturn and Pluto. And in Saturn, let me remind you, already is preparing to disappear in the rays of the sun. So the moon is in the powerful degrees of the spring solstice, so quite powerful, very good for studies, for education, for sharing your knowledge, but I wouldn't advise negotiating because of the aspect of Saturn, but still you can do a lot for your knowledge, a lot for researching ancient history or ancient knowledge, so this could be very, very nice. Because of the affliction of Saturn and Pluto, medical interventions or important activities may not be very, very appropriate, but to maintain knowledge, to study, to do spiritual work, the day could be wonderful, and the very same is valid also for the 13th of December. But then the moon is really conjoined with a node, with Rahu, and it's really receiving even in a more powerful way the opposition of Saturn. So don't take risks, don't do surgical interventions. They could happen, if possible, on another day. And then on the 14th of December, the moon is entering her own sign, very powerful. This day can be good for medical procedures, if not invasive, not for new beginnings. You may travel, you may negotiate. The day is good for home, for giving attention to your mother, paying attention to parents, just do something good for your family, stay at home, enjoy the atmosphere there, and do spiritual work. Your intuition can be very well enhanced if you do meditation or any spiritual practice that you like and that fits your culture. And this will be valid for the 14th. And then on the 15th of December, the moon, it's the last day of the visibility of Saturn. He's really about to disappear. And on the 15th, the moon is in the so-called nebula, Presepe, the nebula of Cancer. These are cloudy degrees, a bit, how to say, well, they're not very benefic, they're not very positive. And Mars is making aspects, so during these days, it's good really to good that it's Sunday. Maybe we'll be able also to stay at home, do spiritual work, do studies, take care of the people that we care about. So no new beginnings, no surgical interventions. The nebula of Cancer can be a bit unpredictable and not very easy. So this was about 15th, and on the 16th of December, again, we have void, of course, moon. As I told you, this is not dramatic, but it's also not very potent if we're going to search for results from our deeds. So yes, spiritual work, if we can, and maintain the status quo, medical interventions, if not invasive, travel, if not so important, but indeed the moon is not creating any important aspects. And then we have in the 17th of December, when the moon is in powerful degrees of astrology, literally astrology, in creating very positive aspect with both Mercury and the invisible Jupiter. So this can be interesting, can be very good for studies, very good for maintaining knowledge. Could be that some knowledge and truth will be revealed to you on that day. Can be good for surgical interventions. You may travel, you may negotiate. And on this day, it's the first day, 17th of December, of the disappearance of Mercury. He is not going to be visible anymore. He was as a morning star, and on the 17th of December, he and Saturn and Jupiter are not visible. You have too many invisible planets on the sky, which would say that things that are happening secretly on mundane level. So, of course, hidden invisible planets we have all the time. But now the situation is interesting because Jupiter is in his own sign. Saturn will be soon in his own sign. So it's kind of transforming and changing and like starting of a new era. But not yet, as I said, after January. So 17th of December can be you can travel, negotiate, well, Mercury is not visible anymore, but still it's not prohibited. You can travel, you can do medical interventions, and the day will be good for your astrological studies if you do such. And then on the 18th of December, again, moon void, of course, not very productive, but very good for astrological studies, numerological studies. You may do medical interventions, if not invasive, you may travel. No new beginnings. And then on the 19th of December, the moon is in very, very specific and actually pure degrees in the constellation of Virgo. Degrees which are very good for knowledge, for studying, sharing your knowledge, astrology, exact sciences. And this is all beautiful. You may do medical interventions, but yes, you may. On the 20th, you may not. So on the 19th of December, you may do. You may also travel. You may negotiate new beginnings. Not. On the 20th, you cannot do any more medical interventions. None of them. Travel and negotiate carefully. New beginnings, not. On the 21st of December, the moon is approaching beautiful, powerful degrees of Libra. 21st of December, degrees of knowledge, degrees of presenting your knowledge, design, work of beauty, and all this is very nice, and receives also the aspect of Venus. So in a way, this can be very, very good for your, for maintaining your work, for if you're doing exact sciences studies work or design work, or this can be very nice. But new beginnings not appropriate because the moon is waning, already approaching the phase of disappearance. But you can certainly study, share knowledge, create beauty. Medical interventions, you may, if not invasive, because we are approaching Mars. On the 22nd of December, you may do some medical interventions. You not appropriate to travel, not appropriate to negotiate. You can still do works of beauty or studies or sharing your knowledge, exact sciences. So this is very nice. Design work, very beautiful. If you will be doing beauty procedures, the days may not be very, very appropriate though. On the 23rd, the moon is really detriment, but still in degrees, hermetic degrees of knowledge, really wonderful for healers, for clairvoyant people, for people who know things, for people who are really gifted. So very, very special degrees, deep degrees of depth. So to enhance your knowledge, the day could be really wonderful. Sharing your knowledge with others maybe, but more to discover knowledge or develop your personal knowledge or personal skills. The day could be really wonderful for enhancing your intuition. Not to travel, you may. Negotiate, you may. Medical interventions, no. New beginnings, no. And on the 24th of December, 24, 25, 26, we have 3 days of invisible moon. And during these 3 days, in the ancient times, people would spend time in the temple, they would meditate, they would contemplate, they would do as less as possible, maybe, except for the astronomers, astrologers who would be waiting for the first lunar crescent, who will appear in the sign of Capricorn on December 27. They will look at the sky, and this way they will know what to expect from the month of January. But the 3 days, 26, 25, and 24, not much can be done. Not any important activity is appropriate. And on the 27th of December, the moon is appearing in Capricorn, and also near very clairvoyant, very powerful degrees of intuition. But because the moon is detriment, even though she's approaching Venus, I would not recommend new initiatives or new beginnings. But still, you can do a lot. You can maintain your intuition. You can gather knowledge. You can study. You can organize your work because Mars is making harmonious aspects. So he would be helping to make your work very productive. So in this sense, organizing work, making plans, traveling, negotiating, you may. 28, the same. I would say absolutely the same. New beginnings, not but to organize your work in a very strategic, planning your activities could be really wonderful. And then we're having the 29th of December, and you on this day, you may travel, you may negotiate. New beginnings may not be the most appropriate activity to do. Medical interventions you may do, if not invasive. 30th of December, the moon is again in the sign of Aquarius, in the degrees of the spiritual guru. Powerful degrees for your spiritual growth of your consciousness. So these are very beautiful degrees exactly for that, to study, to know, to organize your activities. You may do medical interventions, you may travel, you may negotiate. New beginnings, some are also possible. On the 31st of December, the same I can say. You may travel, you may negotiate, but but the day is good to organize your activities and to do spiritual work. Also because the moon is in sacred degrees, very special degrees about spirituality and activities that are helping the humanity, that would fulfill your mission, for example, some good things to be done. So this is about the 31st of December. Have a very good December and see you next month. So thank you.